On this week's Eastern Conference edition of Locked On NHL, the top teams are pulling away, mostly, but who's struggling? Plus, the New York Rangers are looking to make a splash, and two long-tenured players who wear letters might be on their way out. That's coming up on today's Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome inside another episode of Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Great show coming up. We've got the top teams who are pulling away, but the Florida Panthers struggling of late. Can they get back on track? It's a rare busy night in the NHL, a Wednesday. Usually it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but we got 15 games on the docket for tonight. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Ottawa Senators, alongside Mike DiStefano from Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get started with a big return on FanDuel. New customers who win their first $5 bet will get started with $150 in bonus bets. That's if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, and Mikey, you must be feeling good about your Toronto Maple Leafs winners of 4 in a row.
Things are looking pretty good in Leafland. I can say that. You cannot. Since the Battle of Ontario, when you came out, you tried to spew all this nonsense, and I told you that was your Stanley Cup victory.
4 in a row.
One win since, I think, up until like last night. It was a big old losing skid since then. But yes, things are going very well in Toronto right now. No Matthews. No problem, brother. No problem.
Well, it seems like the Senators are the slump busters for the Leafs, because Ottawa beat Toronto last year, and then didn't they win 5 in a row right after that too?
Something like that. It's like they beat Ottawa, or Ottawa wins, and they remind themselves of how annoying that is, and hey, whip themselves right up into shape. Do we play Game 82 this year? That'd be nice. Go play the Sens on Game 82 and nicely get ready to go before it's go time in the playoffs. But yeah, Maple Leafs sitting atop of the table right now in the Atlantic Division, and they got a matchup tonight against the Florida Panthers, so they'll have an opportunity to increase that lead that they have. I think they're just 3-point lead right now, but they got a game in hand also, and can kind of extend that with a big win tonight. And Florida, weirdly, not playing well. Like, that's a team like these two teams are going in opposite directions. Toronto's won 7 of their last 8. Florida's lost 6 of their last 7. So, Florida clearly still a great hockey team. I don't think anyone's worried about them not making the playoffs or anything. And, at some point they're going to get things together. And it would be very Leafsy for it to happen tonight, though, I will say. So there are some angst amongst Leaf fans going into this game for that very reason.
Yeah, Panthers are coming off 4 straight losses, and we'll get to them in a minute, but the big story, the biggest sniper in the National Hockey League, Tage Thompson is, we'll get to that later too. Austin Matthews, he's still not in the lineup. It's a big topic around the league. Went to Germany to see a specialist. He's been on the ice for practice. What's the latest with Austin Matthews?
Yeah, so he has practiced the last 2 days, and he does have a full one under his belt, but apparently still not 100% ready to go tonight, so they're taking advantage of a soft schedule. They're going to hold him out for one more game. I mean, they're 7-1 without him, so they don't necessarily need him, I guess. They can afford to hold off and make sure that he's 100%, and hopefully he plays on Saturday when they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, yeah, not going to suit up tonight against Florida, which is okay. The Leafs have been all right without him, but hopefully he does return Saturday because, he's the captain. He's the best goal scorer in the NHL, and despite them having a winning record without him, they're still a much better team with him. So it'll be nice for him to get back soon.
And if you can't beat them, be them. And 3 players got their Stanley Cup rings today with Florida coming to Toronto. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Steven Lorenz, and Anthony Stolarz. So they've got some bling in their back pocket heading into tonight's game. The Florida Panthers, though, and we see this every year. Look, they won their first 2 games after coming back from overseas, but since then, it's been a struggle. You mentioned it, 1-6 in their last 7 games. Like, that is unfathomable for the Florida Panthers team, and it's not like they're dealing with a number of injuries either. So what is it about this Panthers team that has been unable to see them have success of late?
Yeah, I mean, they're healthier now than they were earlier in the year when they were winning games. Like, they went through a stretch without Kachuk and Barkov, and we're still winning hockey games. It was wild. And I thought to myself, man, that's just how good this team is. Like, they're going to rattle off, possibly 60 wins this year. Not the case. And, I was looking into the underlying numbers, expecting for, to them to show that they've probably been giving up a lot of scoring chances and high danger chances because the defense took a big hit. They lost Montour, they lost OEL, and didn't really replace them with, better players. So I thought that would be the case, but it hasn't really actually in terms of like expected goals at 5-on-5. They're still among, top 10 in the NHL. It's been the goaltending. Sergei Bobrovsky's been terrible. Especially lately. I mean, he's given up 4+ goals, and I think 4 of his last 6 outings. He's got an .885 save percentage. Like, Officer Bob has not been the Vezina quality goaltender that they've come to expect out of him over the last couple of years.
Well, how much do you think, as a guy who is now getting older, he's 36, he played 58 games in the regular season and every game in the playoffs on their way to a Stanley Cup, where
Two trips to the Stanley Cup, I might add, back-to-back long seasons.
We've seen that with Vasilevsky, where he had a bit of a struggle after so much action, like at 30, and he was in his mid-20s at that standpoint. So if I'm the Florida Panthers, and I know that Spencer Knight, his trajectory has kind of flatlined from being this up-and-coming star, top 15 pick, lottery pick, but I would be looking to get him into the mix a bit more, knowing that your team is in a playoff spot despite the struggles, and try to at least get Bobrovsky some rest here. It's the old adage where we see it with Connor Hellebuck this year taking some time, where Eric Comrie's getting extra starts. The days of the workhorse number one are gone, so maybe less could be more for Bobrovsky going forward.
For sure. It's a solid point. I think they've done that. You look at the last 5 games, they have been alternating them. So I think
it's not working then, because he had a 750 last game. Bobrovsky did an 840 the game before that. Now, he did get a 5-0 shutout against the Jets, but even with that shutout, he's got an 885 on the season. I know the save percentages are down across the National Hockey League this year, but that is a far cry from where he was at one season ago.
It's always concerning when you look at the save percentage of both goaltenders and there's a big discrepancy. So I believe I was looking at it last night, 902 save percentage for Spencer Knight. So that's a 17-point drop off, and that's quite significant when you look at it. So to me, that is definitely a concern that, Knight has been the better goalie, and it could be due to fatigue. Like, it's very possible. I mean, age in general is always a concern. No, goalies typically can play a little later into their careers. But for sure, at 36 years old, it might just be starting to unravel here for Bobrovsky. It's possible he's just, exuded so much energy over the last couple of seasons that he just doesn't have it in himself anymore. Maybe he's not as quick to get to those, cross ice passes like he was the last couple of seasons. I haven't watched intently enough to, I guess, study that, but it's very possible that it could be the case. And I don't know, man, like the Florida Panthers, you look at how much they truly relied on goaltending the last 2 years. Like, it was a lot. Like, Bobrovsky, the run that he made to the Stanley Cup final the first year, he went like an entire month where he surrendered 2 or less goals in the playoffs. Like, it was insane what he was doing in the playoffs. I remember because, half of it was against the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he literally didn't allow more than 2 goals in a game. There was a shutout involved in that as well, I'm pretty sure. So, if he is not going to be that all-star caliber goaltender for them, they are going to be in tough. Now, I think they're still good enough, obviously, to be a playoff team, but maybe they're not the team that we thought they were in the first week of the season, where it looked like they were going to be strong contenders to and favorites to repeat as champions. Maybe might have to touch the brakes there if Bob's isn't the same goalie.
The Florida Panthers have the 8th best goal differential in the Eastern Conference, and with how tight things are, a loss tonight and a win for both the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins would see them go all the way to the outside looking in. to a playoff spot. Same could be said if Tampa wins. Like, that's how close it is right now in the Atlantic Division and the Eastern Conference. 2nd to 5th in the Atlantic is separated by 2 points. Now, Tampa does have 2 games in hand as well on Florida. Going to be fascinating to watch that continue. Meanwhile, in the Metropolitan Division, we are seeing some teams that just like they're standing still. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about the New York Rangers, Chris Kreider, Jacob Trouba, their names being thrown out there as possible trade candidates. Wild, man. And we knew they were trying to move on from Jacob Trouba last summer. He's got a full no move clause, so that complicates things. But Chris Kreider, like when you think of the New York Rangers, you think of Chris Kreider. He's looking at as a Cy Young favorite so far this season. Early on, I know things can change in a hurry, but he's at is he still at 9 goals and no assists? He sure is through 19 games this season. And there was a great tweet last week because he's been stuck at that number where it's the most goals without an assist in a season since going back to the 1920s, when I don't think there were secondary assists or anything like that. So we'll save that for a little bit later on in the show. But what I love about the Eastern Conference this year is anyone can beat anyone on any given night. And we haven't really seen beyond Toronto, who's really taken off here, and they're sitting at 28 points, and New Jersey at 32. Carolina is just a wagon. Those 3, and you could even throw
Washington in there
in the mix for sure. But now without Ovechkin for an extended period of time, they're still
rolling.
They beat Florida. We just talked about struggling. They beat them, but still, they are looking good. And those 3 teams, their goal differential in the Metropolitan, top 3 teams in the Metropolitan have dominated goal differential in the Eastern Conference. New Jersey's plus 22, Carolina and Washington at plus 29 each. No other team is better than Tampa at plus 15. Like, that's how far the drop-off is there. So really impressive for those 3 teams who are pulling away in the Metropolitan Division. And I think that adds a little bit more angst to the Rangers, where it's like, are we going to be that wild card team who can't catch it? They're 4 points back right now in the division of the top 3. So going to be really fascinating to watch that going forward. The bubble teams also fascinating. On the other side, we'll talk about the stocks who are up and who are down in that bubble race, the teams in the wild card and on the outside looking in. We'll wrap up today's show with that discussion about the New York Rangers. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Built. Built is a new sponsor of ours here at the Locked On NHL Network, and Built is just awesome. When you look at when you're paying rent, right? You need to know Built. And you're about to thank me for this because you can earn points on rent. It's a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even have to check with your landlord to start earning points that you use toward flights, hotel stays, fitness classes, even your next rent payment. Let's break it down. If you're a renter, you can take advantage of Built because you earn those points. And with seasons changing, you can dream about that warm weather getaway. I love using my points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more points so I can pay less when I'm traveling. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points. These points can be transferred to your hotels or airlines, and even the ones that you haven't heard of. There's over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world that you can redeem your Built points towards. So build your point base and start earning points on rent that you're already paying by joining Built. It's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. That's JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNHL. Make sure you use our URL so they know that we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL to start earning points on your rent payments today.
And today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The Game Time Picks curates and makes it easier to save more on sports, comedy, concerts, theater events, whatever you're looking to get tickets to, they're all on the app, and they've got all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout. You can even get a panoramic view of your seat from the app before you even purchase your tickets. And they've got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week, like Mike DiStefano, my co-host here on Locked On Maple Leafs. You can find me at Locked On Ottawa Senators. And I mean, look, the Senators winless in 5. They get their win on Monday night against Calgary. By the way, the Amazon Prime games in Canada, awesome broadcast, 4K, the audio's crisp. The play-by-play, John Forsland, doesn't get any better than that. So I've really been enjoying that. But, like, look, they lost 5 in a row, and I was like, okay, they're done. They're out of it. But so many teams in the wild card race are struggling right now, Mikey. Like, who are the teams that, to you, are impressing and maybe have risen up the ranks from where you had them preseason?
I'll definitely answer that question in just a second. But quickly, why am I seeing some chatter out there about teams checking in on Brady Tkachuk? Is that fire or smoke?
That's nothing. That's a false alarm, pal.
Okay. All right. Just checking. You know, the streets are saying.
No, the streets aren't saying it. The streets don't miss, and the streets are not saying that. That's fans of other teams, and fans of the Ottawa Senators are also sick of not seeing Brady Tkachuk in the playoffs. It just feels like his game's meant for it. Matthews had so much success, and it's been 7 years and he hasn't made the playoffs, and it's year 7 for him. Sorry, Ottawa's been 7. The first year they missed, they ended up being the reward of getting to draft Brady Tkachuk. But I think right now you're seeing a little bit more smoke around Josh Norris is another name out there. I don't think it's time to make a trade. You're a big underlying numbers guy. The underlying numbers for Ottawa are good. They just feel like there's a mental block when they get up in a game where they just can't finish. They've had a couple third period leads get away from them this year. They've had goaltending struggles at other times. Heck, they won their game against Calgary Monday. They had an .885 save percentage. Like,
so throwing a bunch of money at Omar didn't solve the problem?
Well, hey, he's got one shutout this year. You know who it came against?
No, I have no idea. Can't recall.
Toronto Maple Leafs,
pal.
It
doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, Stanley Cup. Hang the banner.
Well, it would be 4 straight Stanley Cups. We've been over this.
Hey, go ahead. Hang as many banners as you want when it comes to the Battle of Ontario, because only one team is going to be in the playoffs this year, and it's going to be the one south.
So we're talking about playoffs here. Well, the Ottawa Senators have more playoff series wins in the Matthews, Marner, Nylander area. That's crazy.
Go ahead. Yeah, talk about the past. Crazy. Talk about the past. I'm all about the present and future, buddy.
Oh, okay. Big future guy. Well, if you're putting a future over at FanDuel, who are you putting a future on to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference right now?
The Buffalo Sabres.
They look good.
They do look good. They've won 7 of their last 10. They've won a few here in a row. They're getting Tage Thompson back. Paterka's getting going. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's been solid. Rasmus Dahlin. I mean, Lindy Ruff's got that team back up and running. A little bit of a slow start out of the gate, but they've been running it up and currently in a playoff spot as we speak, and they're one of the teams that are, moving and shaking in the right direction. I was big on Buffalo. I mean, big in terms of, when we talk about what team is going to make that next step, I had the Sabres pegged as that team that would make the playoffs. Didn't look good through October, but through November, it's looked great. So I think they're a team that's definitely heading in the right direction. Their stock is trending upward for sure.
And you talk about how without Matthews, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 7-1. Well, the Buffalo Sabres have been surging without Tage Thompson, who returns tonight and who has 11 goals in 16 games this season. Like, it feels like this is the perfect time to get him back in the mix.
Yeah, pretty good. 11 goals, 16 games, not too shabby.
Yeah, I'm buying that as well. And then you look on the other side of things with the Boston Bruins. Have you seen that they only have 1 goal at home in the third period this season? When Ottawa played them, right before Ottawa played Toronto, the Bruins didn't have a shot in the third period, let alone a goal. They had 0 shots. Like,
Gross.
this team, it's to me, and then last night, and ever since they made the coaching change, since we've last spoken, like, they outshot Vancouver by double last night, and then they get shut out. Like, it feels like they just can't buy a win.
No, they can't, man. And the Boston Bruins, new coach, same issues. Can't score, and they're having tough time keeping the puck out of the net too. Swayman has not been as good as he was a year ago. Might need his pal, Linus Ullmark back. I mean, maybe they're just a formidable duo together, but complete average goalies by themselves. That's a team that I'm worried about. Like, even before they made the coaching change, I was kind of concerned, and they did make the change. But it's a group that's just old, man. They're old, they're underperforming, and Elias Lindholm is not giving them nearly enough for what they paid him, right? Marchand's kind of slipped down below where he's expected to be. They're not getting much out of young guys like Matthew Poitras. John Beecher hasn't given them a whole lot. Like, I don't know, it's just a team that's very much underperforming, and they can't make saves and stop pucks and score. It's a bad combination. I'm not a believer in the Boston Bruins. I'm not.
They have 0 forwards on entry-level contracts right now. I think their only entry-level contract. I think he got sent down. Is he back up?
Well, okay, possibly got sent down, but
yeah, he's not in the lineup right now. Mark McLaughlin just got called up, so he might be, but that's like, they need, you can talk about their bottom lineup players. It's the big dogs that need to be better. And Brad Marchand, who I'm looking at here, 6 goals, 9 assists this season. Elias Lindholm, 3 goals, 7 assists. Like, those guys need to be better. And a part of it,
Zaka's got 7. There's no reason why these names, Justin Brazeau, Cole Koepke, Mason Lohrei, should all be outscoring Pavel Zacha, who has the same amount of points as Mark Kastelich.
Yeah, Casty's got the same offense, 3 goals and 4 assists as Pavel Zacha.
Yeah. Brutal.
Now 15 shots versus 52. But to me, I mean, put the puck in the net, Zacha. 3 goals on 52 shots?
Yeah, it's
Come
not
on.
good. 5. Well, that's another thing. You look at the shooting percentage. I'm taking a look right now.
Morgan Geeky's got 1 goal on 30 shots. He's playing top line right now.
Listen to this. Literally the shooting percentage right now. Pasta 8%, Marchand 8%, Lindholm 8%, Zacha 5%, McAvoy 6%. Where else have we got? Anyone else? Charlie Coyle sitting at 12%, so I guess that's decent. He's got 4 goals on just 33 shots. Charlie Coyle needs to just shoot more. Geeky's got a 3% shooting percentage. So, they just got to finish. At the end of the day, it's a team that needs to finish. They got to score more, and they got to keep pucks out of their own net. It's not a season that Swayman was hoping for, especially if the team was hoping for after that contract. The guy's got a 316 goals against, an 888 save percentage, paying the guy over $8 million. He's got to save pucks. Has to happen, and it hasn't. So there's a lot of things that need to really, really turn here for the Boston Bruins quickly to get themselves back on track.
And you don't believe they can do it?
It's not that I don't believe they can do it. I just think that there's other teams that, are overtaking them. Like, I look at them as a bubble team as is. And I think it's more so I have more faith in Buffalo, being a believer in Buffalo, than I do being a detractor of the Boston Bruins.
Going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. We'll be following it throughout the season. Same with another original 6 team, the New York Rangers, who are sitting in a playoff spot, but not comfortably. Are they looking to shake up their team? And what can they do to accomplish that? That's next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Make sure you check out FanDuel. FanDuel has you covered with everything you need to get in on the action. Over at FanDuel, they can show you live play-by-play during the games, the latest stats, and you can make your bets on the same page. So, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. There's no better time to get in on the action than right now over at FanDuel with 15 games, 30 teams on the docket today. You can also see team futures, player milestones, even 4 nation faceoffs will be there. Heck, you can even bet right now if James Higgins will be the first overall pick in the draft or the field. The field is at plus 118. So get in the action. New customers, bet $5. If you win, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day, and the New York Rangers. Been one of our favorites the last few years, Mikey, but they are not getting it done. Locked On Rangers host John Chick, he is disgusted with some of the efforts on that team, and you're looking at the up and down stats and just looking from outside at what's gone wrong with the Rangers. Well, why don't we start with Mika Zibanejad? Dash 13 in 20 games, and he's only got 4 goals. This guy's making $8.5 million. He needs to be better if this team's going to have success.
Oh, absolutely. Like, he's been, one of their staples for years. And if he's not, pulling his weight, that's going to be a big issue for this team, and especially defensively. Like, he's just been a two-way force for this team for a long time. And they're on a 3-game losing streak here, and they've been outscored 16-6 in those games. So, yeah, the Rangers, there's a lot of issues right now with this group. They've got to start getting some contributions from Mika Zibanejad, just 4 goals. Trocheck has not really been as good as he was a season ago. He's sitting on just 10 points and 4 goals this year. So there's a couple of reasons why this team isn't playing as well as you would hope. And then they're not getting that secondary, or the Shesterkin also has had a couple of games of late where, some blips, we'll call them. So I'm still a believer in the Rangers. This trade talk, though, is kind of weird to me. Like, I'm really not sure why Trouba, okay, I understand. They want to get rid of Trouba. That's kind of been a thing. But Chris Kreider doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. If this is a group that believes that they can be Stanley Cup contenders this year and still compete, that's someone I want on my roster. He's proven time and time again that he's a playoff performer. What the hell are they doing looking to trade him?
I don't understand. And, what are they looking for in return?
Yeah. I don't really get it either. I think, was he second in the team in goals?
Yeah, so he's dead last. You and me have the same amount of assists.
I get that, but he's a goal scorer, so that doesn't really bother me that much. I suppose if he can, get him 9 tucks in 19 games, still looks like he's on pace for 40 goals. I'll take that out of Chris Kreider. I don't really care about the assists. He's still a good hockey player.
Yep.
So I don't know. To me, it's a team that's just underperforming a little bit right now. I still got belief in the Rangers. It's not. They're not going to fall out of it when it comes to the playoffs. I get that they're only hanging on by an absolute thread right now. They do have games in hand, though. They've got 25 points, and the teams below them, Buffalo is 23. They've got a game in hand on them. And the Bruins, who also have 23, but they've got 3 games in hand on Boston. And then you get to the Islanders, who are things aren't going well in New York either. I'm not a believer in the Flyers. Maybe the Blue Jackets? Are you a believer in the Blue Jackets? They've been playing some good hockey of late. Could they push for a wild card spot? Is that one team that might be a threat to the Rangers?
Well, it's a team that, to me, is the really good story. And we talked about in the preseason, obviously, the tragedy that happened with Johnny Gaudreau. And it's for them to band together and play the way they're doing, they're playing inspired hockey. And they've also got a question on the trade front where it's David Jiricek, 6th overall pick in the 2022 draft. And what are they looking to get? Another young player, kind of like the Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale deal? Or are they now being hey, not a whole lot of teams are pushing here in that Eastern Conference. Maybe we make a trade to get better right now.
I could see that being the case, and I don't know much trade.
Wouldn't Chris Kreider look good there?
Oh, is that what you're thinking? A little swapskis? He would look good there.
I think he would. I think he'd look real good in Columbus.
The Rangers in Columbus have made a couple of blockbuster deals in their
Marian Gaborik.
Gabo, obviously Rick Nash.
Yeah,
was a trade that went down with those two. There's another big one too. Why am I blanking? There's one more that was sizable, I believe. But
was Derek Brassard in the? Was that another one?
Brassard, possibly Brassard, but
no, I know he was traded.
Artem Anisimov was another big one.
Yeah, but Brassard was traded from Columbus to Rangers. This is such a kick in my face. When I type in Derek Brassard trade.
And then they got Mika Zibanejad out of that.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every trade when I'm looking for, he was in the Marian Gaborik trade.
Yeah.
For Derek Brassard, Derek Dorsett, and John Moore. I think the Rangers probably win. They shipped. Oh no, Gaborik got traded to Columbus.
Yes.
There you go. The more you know.
Yeah, Columbus won that deal. I would say.
I
think
so.
If it was a Jiricek for Kreider
although
trade,
Brassard had some big years in the playoffs, big game brass he was known as when they made it to the finals in conference finals 2014.
I guess it did also eventually net them Zibanejad too. But anyways, point remains, the Rangers in Columbus have made some big deals in the past, so perhaps that could be an option there. I still just don't really understand why the Rangers are looking to move off from a Chris Kreider. It doesn't make that much sense to me. If I was a team that is on the cusp of a playoff spot, like if I'm Buffalo, you talk about being a good fit. Is Buffalo not a perfect fit for a guy like Chris Kreider? Is he not exactly what that team needs right now?
Yeah, I think so. But I think there's also something where the team has such high expectations. They've underperformed. It's like, do we do something to send a shot across the bow here and shake things up?
I mean, but like moving out one of your pillars?
Yeah, I don't know.
That could backfire easily, man. I don't know.
Well, they're also going to need the money
to do it, but
they're looking to add some flexibility for next year and beyond when Shesterkin's going to make a ton of money if he stays.
I guess that might have something to do with it, eh? Trying to clear up some cap space. How many more years does Kreider have on that deal?
Kreider, I'll tell you right now. We'll go to our new friends over at Puckpedia.
Couple years left, I'd imagine. He's not a pending UFA by any stretch.
No, he's got this year and 2 more at a pretty reasonable $6.5 million cap hit.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm Buffalo, I'd be picking up the phone. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. That would be a great call.
Washington, I think, could use a guy like that at this point now. Carolina? What about Carolina?
That'd be a great fit.
There's a lot of teams.
He'd fit in great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and they could probably get a haul for him too, right?
I would think. I mean, we're talking about a multi-40 goal scorer here.
Yeah. It's going to be fun to see. We'll see how it all shakes out. Let us know in the comments what the Rangers should do here to get themselves back into the mix with the top 3, the Devils and the Capitals and the Hurricanes, the top 3 teams by far here in terms of the underlying numbers in the Metropolitan Division. For more from us, go check out Locked On Maple Leafs, Locked On Senators. We're your team every day. We'll hand it over to Power Rankings Thursday right here on the Locked On Network. Thank you for watching. It has been our pleasure. We'll be back next Wednesday. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day.